Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani, and we are going to talk to the mayor.
Thanks for joining us. We're live with Mayor Rudy Giuliani here on YouTube, Facebook, and Getter. Thanks for joining us. And tonight, the mayor is going to highlight and expose just the number of acts of violence being perpetrated by the left.
You know, the idea that somehow MAGA or Republican conservatives are violent, when you consider the violence in this country and the mass amount of violence in this country, this is a very, very peaceful, law and order group of people, extraordinary in that regard. So you look at the cities that set a record for murder and violence last year. Oh my goodness, there were so many of them, right? 17 cities set a record for violence. And none of them is, if I'm correct, none of them is even governed by a Republican. They're all Democrat cities. Not all are Democrat states, but it's the cities really that are the core of the crime enforcement, the effectiveness or ineffectiveness of it. Mayors and police commissioners, mayors and police chiefs. They're the ones who deal with the issue of crime. The criminal powers of a state are generally at the local level. Very few states have state police that police the whole state. New York is really even more in that direction because, as far as I can tell, New York City Police Department is bigger than any state police. It's bigger than the FBI. I mean, the FBI is like 15,000 agents. NYPD, when I had it, was 41,000. It has shrunk down with to fund the police to 34, 33. By the way, one of the things that our friend Lee Zeldin should use in his campaign in New York is that New York did defund the police. They took $1 million out of the police department. $1 billion out of the $1 billion out of the New York City Police Department. Never been returned. They returned about $100 million for a while, and now Adams has cut the budget of the New York Police Department in the middle of a massive crime emergency. And the Democratic Party and their allies in the legacy media, they're trying to shift the economy away. They're trying to shift the conversation away from the economy and other issues like crime and where the genesis of it is. And they're leaning into this issue of political violence. And they're attempting to paint Republicans as the guilty party, when in fact, with a few exceptions, we've been getting pounded. Right? We're the victims. Except the press doesn't pay attention to us when we're the victims. So you get the impression that one attack on a Democrat, and 15 on Republicans are completely ignored. So I mean, it's sort of like the January 6th thing. January 6th is the worst thing that happened in the history of America, except all summer, every single riot, the Black Lives Matter and Antifa, funded by the Democrat Party, was worse than January 6th.
So, Mayor,
the protesters on January 6th didn't kill anybody. The Antifa and Black Lives Matter Democrat rioters, they probably did 800 riots for the one that was done at the Capitol. And the 800 riots burned buildings down, destroyed property, stole property, sent thousands of people to the hospital, and killed people. And the one on January 6th only killed one of the Trump people, Ashley Babbitt. The Capitol didn't burn down. I mean, it's still there. But whole parts of cities have been burned down by Democrats. And when I say Democrats, don't test me. Who sponsors Antifa? Who's the biggest sponsor of Antifa? Who's the biggest sponsor of Black Lives Matter? Who's the biggest sponsor of the Democrat Party? George Soros. Who's the big sponsor of the 40 or so district attorneys who set violent criminals free by the hundreds and thousands in the cities that set records for murder? Oh, they're funded by George Soros, and they're all Democrats too. So when we talk about violence, political or otherwise in this country, there's some Republican. Republicans are amateurs. Democrats almost do it for a living. Yeah. They do. President Harris, her people got the violent, property destructive, police attacking arsonists of January 6th out of prison. The corrupt DAs elected on millions from Soros, who had no interest in those counties or cities except to destroy them. They're all Democrats. So you get one incident like January 6th, never gets repeated. It's painted as an insurrection. Nobody has a gun. Nobody has a follow-up plan. Insurrection of what? A 5-hour insurrection that was going to end after 5 hours? Don't you realize they're lying as much about that as they're lying about Russian disinformation and lying about me, about the hard drive? Who was lying about that? Proven. They were. Who was telling the truth? I was, and Trump. Who was lying about Russian collusion? They were. For 4 years. Who paid millions of dollars to perpetrate that lie? Hillary Clinton paid $1 million of it. You don't think others of them put money in for that? The faces you see on the January 6th committee are all the same faces of the people who lied about Russian collusion, the conversation with Ukraine, Biden's criminality. They're hiding Biden's dementia and lying about it. They're the same ones who lied about Russian disinformation and made it up and got their highest intelligence officials to prostitute themselves and put their name on a letter accusing the hard drive and accusing me and Senator Johnson and Senator Grassley and others of being Russian agents. That was all a proven 100% lie. All those same liars you see on television on the January 6th committee. And now I hear Schiff wants to be the new Speaker of the House. He'd be the perfect selection. He'd fit the Pelosi situation perfectly. He's the biggest liar in the House. Could very well be the biggest criminal in the House. He virtually tried to overthrow the United States government on false testimony. I don't know. Old days, they'd call him a traitor.
Thanks for joining us live with Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Comment below with your name and where you're tuning in from. The mayor loves to hear from folks all across the country and around the world. So, Mayor, if we examine the past month and a half and we really look at some of the public incidents of violence or threats of violence, if you really start looking at them, and I know you put a list together, and maybe we go through these.
Sure. So now, in the same way that they try to make it appear as if January 6th is the only thing that happened, and they kind of completely obliterate the 800 violent riots that sometimes ended in murder, violence that always ended in people going to the hospital, and billions of dollars in destruction of property, none of which January 6th was. Just the way they did that, they took this one attack on Pelosi, which is terrible. He shouldn't have been attacked. On the other hand, the attack has more questions than it has answers. There are no answers. You didn't know that soon-to-be United States Senator General John Bolduc, when he arrived at the debate with Senator lapdog for Biden, Hassan, she has 100% Biden inflation creating record. She is a pure professional inflation creator. And Don Bolduc was attacked. He just dodged a punch from an insane, out of his mind Biden Democrat supporter. I don't know. To support Biden, you got to be out of your mind, because he is, right? How do you support a guy who thinks that his vice president is his president? Well, this guy came up to Bolduc. He tried to hit him. Bolduc avoided the punch, and the man was arrested and charged with a crime. But, doesn't count.
Do you think we heard about this anywhere in the mainstream media?
No, you won't hear about it. It just happened. It just happened. And maybe you could even tie it, if you want to do the political violence thing, maybe you could tie it in and say, gee, there's a lot of political violence. Look at what happened to Pelosi, and look at what happened to the guy going into a debate. The guy tried to punch him out for political reasons.
And apparently, moving to Illinois, there was a situation.
A man threatened to kill Darren Bailey, who is running as a Republican, right, for governor of the state of Illinois. The man threatened to kill him. Not just there's whatever happened with Pelosi. Who knows what happened? I mean, they were kind of like all friendly or whatever, and then all of a sudden, it hit him in the head. We don't know what happened, because they lie so much you don't know what happened.
But there's no question.
But nothing about threatening to kill the gubernatorial candidate, Republican. Well, he's a Republican, so it's okay to kill him. The president uses words of violence that are obvious. Republicans are fascists. Mega people are extremists. We're trying to overthrow democracy. Those are not words that are intended to create violence against us. And what does Trump say about January 6th? Go to the Capitol peacefully and patriotically. Huh? Schumer tells people to go attack Gorsuch, and a guy does? There's no ambiguity about that. Trump never said anything like that. But you never hear about that. How about on November 1st? There was a shooting right outside the candidate for governor in New York, Lee Zeldin's house. Right outside his house. This was a shooting. This wasn't a guys sitting around in their underwear who got into a fight. This was a shooting. Lee wasn't sitting around with this guy in his underwear with some kind of ambiguous conversation where he was home with his family, with his two girls, and an 18-year-old named, I think his name is Noah Green. They were pointing firearms and shooting, and you probably never heard of that. And if you did, it was, I mean, he's only a Republican. What's the difference if he gets killed, right? Huh? Well, now we got 3-1, don't we? We got 3-1. What a bunch of lousy liars. What a bunch of lousy bums. How about on October 23rd, Marco Rubio canvasser was attacked in Hialeah, Florida. 2 people attacked him for supporting Senator Marco Rubio. According to an arrest affidavit obtained by Fox News Digital, Jonathan Alexander Casanova, joined by Javier Lopez, got together and attacked the canvasser. The canvasser told the police that Casanova told him he couldn't pass through the area because he was a Republican. I represented a young lady who went to school in the District of Columbia who was told she couldn't go to the school in the District of Columbia because she was told, why would a Republican go to school in the district? You don't belong here. And what they did to this girl, what the Democratic crazy people did to this girl, is obscene. I know of no Republican that's ever done that to a group, to a Democrat. Never heard of any such thing. What about the pro-life volunteer in Michigan on October 4th who was shot? Oh, no, we're not going to hear it. Imagine if a pro-choice volunteer was shot. We'd have a national, international coverage.
Wall-to-wall coverage. I bet most people on our chats, and a lot of them I'm sure are in tune with the news, and I'm willing to bet a good majority of them did not even hear that story.
84-year-old volunteer Joan Jacobson was shot on October 20th while going door to door in Lake Odessa on behalf of the pro-life group Right to Life Michigan. She was asking people to oppose Proposal 3, which would make abortion a state constitutional right. The other group, of course, believes that is wrong, and the group believes that proposal is wrong because it would allow abortions anytime, at any stage in the state. And I don't know if there's anybody that really disagrees that an abortion of an 8-month pregnant woman is just a euphemism for the first-degree murder of a human being. I mean, 8 months, whether Stacey Abrams understands when you hear a heartbeat or not, which she doesn't, or the new justice to the Supreme Court can define woman, which means we have some really woefully uneducated people. I think we can all agree that an 8-month baby in the womb is a baby. It's got everything. It's got everything a human being has. It also has a soul. It's a creature of God. I don't care if you're the mother. You don't get to kill your kid. I mean, when did mothers have the right to kill their kids? I don't care if at 8 months you don't want to have the baby anymore. And I know what you do with health of the mother. I'm mayor of a big city. I mean, as a prosecutor, I know what you do with health of the mother. Yeah, you're going to get depressed, so you kill the kid.
Thanks again for joining us.
You don't get to kill because you get depressed. Now, you want to talk about the first 3 months? Okay. I don't agree with it, but I can see where the law would allow that. I can see how others would disagree with me, and you better be able to see how others disagree with you. And you better be able to respect the fact that there are people in this world who believe that abortion is murder. And certainly at the 7th, 8th, 9th month, they are surely right and you're wrong. And in the first couple of months, you got to respect each other for a difference of opinion. You don't go shoot them. Well, you do, because the press doesn't care if you do that. You could do anything to pro-life people, they wouldn't care, right? Look what you tried to do to Scalise. I mean, that was much worse than Pelosi. The guy almost died. This wasn't ambiguity about whether he was a friend or not. The guy was there. You call up. We can't figure out if there was a third person in the house. You realize how fugazi this thing is? You know what fugazi means? Screwed up, suspicious. The first report from the chief of the department was that another man let the police in the house, or another person let the police in the house. And chief repeated it twice, and it's basically in the affidavit. Now, we got somehow Pelosi is in this fight with this guy, or not fight, and he lets the police in, except the affidavit said the door was opened by someone else, and the police saw them standing there at some distance and told them to put the hammer down, and the guy put the hammer in Pelosi's head. Now, the police, if they think this is an attack, if this is assailant against the victim, unless these are the dumbest cops that ever lived, they're not going to tell you to put it down. They're going to come after you and take it away from you. They thought these were two friends having a dispute, and therefore they didn't know who was equally responsible for what, and they thought they could diffuse things by saying, put down the hammer. Because they didn't properly understand that, I guess, one guy was the bad guy and one guy was the good guy. Because the bad guy put it down, and he put it down right in Pelosi's head. Now, that requires some explanation, doesn't it? And what were they doing in the House for that long? And why can't we see the video? We see the video of everything. You saw all of George Floyd's video, didn't you? About 150 times, 500 times, 1,000 times. But you can't see that video, just like you can't see the video of the Antifa people on January 6th. Right? You're not allowed to see that. Or you're not told the identities who were around Ashley Babbitt when she was murdered. We don't know. One of those people is identified as a possible Antifa people by other people, but the cops won't tell us. If it's a cop shooting of a black man, innocent or guilty, you're going to see every darn video that exists. We haven't seen a single video of the Pelosi thing. Can you explain to me why? If it's so unambiguously an attempted murder, why wouldn't we want to show that so that we dissuade other people? And we like when we show the pictures of the people thrown on the subway, it really gives people a sense of the level of crime the Democrats have created in this country. And these are all Democrat cities. These crimes are occurring in Democrat cities. I mean, San Francisco's a Democrat city. You start thinking about this guy, he had some views that seemed like they were wacky pro-right, but he had a hell of a lot of views that were wacky pro-left. And I don't see any identification of him as a MAGA person, making America great again. I've never seen anything about him making him. I mean, here are the things that sort of are contrary to that. The guy is some kind of a nudist activist. He's married to the biggest nudist activist in California. She, on her first interview, said he's a left-winger. She said he's a progressive, a very, very strong progressive. So whatever views he had now are either assumed for the moment or part of his crazy head. He's driven as much by left-wing craziness as he is right-wing craziness. So how the hell are you blaming him on us? And it happens in a city that you don't police, in which you had to just get rid of your DA because he was getting people in your city killed, like this home invasion. If you had a Republican mayor and a Republican governor, maybe something like this never would have happened. And what the hell are you doing without security? I mean, this is the third ranking official of the United States. You know, third ranking and second in line. He got it right. Everybody else got it wrong. No. The crazy guy got it right when he said the guy is the second, that Pelosi is the second in line of the presidency. Because our press that's been educated mostly in Marxist influenced colleges and lower schools think she's the third in line for the presidency. Of course, she's not, because there is a president, and there are two people in line for it. See, you might think Biden is in line for the presidency. It goes something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to show you what idiots they are. This is what happens when you have a bad education. You don't count, like when you learn at a very young age that 1 and 1 doesn't necessarily equal 2 if you think it equals 3. I'm pointing this out because every nitwit left-wing moron contradicted the nut job because he said that Pelosi is second in line. They said, Pelosi, I wish I had some of the tapes. They were really, Pelosi was third in line. There's goofy doofy Biden. I have a very hard time writing this, but okay. He's the president. He's not in line to be president. He used to be in line to be president. And they didn't stop counting the votes until they made him president. Then second, there's President Harris. Now, this could confuse things because this guy here, who is the president, thinks that the right name here is because no matter what we do, he keeps introducing her as President Harris. She isn't President Harris. See, Joe, there's a little V here. So this is number one in line. See, she's waiting online for him to get out of there. Now we have Pelosi, the woman without an original part on her face. There she is right there, Pelosi. That's first in line. She has to be waiting for him and her to go. That makes her second in line. Hey, morons, want me to send this to you? Joe won't get it, but I think Harris would get it. Joe, I don't know if Joe could get past 3. Like, try 1, 2, 3, Joe. 1, 5, 7. Thank you, President Harris.
Thanks for joining us. We're live with Mayor Rudy Giuliani on YouTube, Facebook, and Getter. Follow the mayor on all of his social media platforms and visit RudyGiulianiCS.com.
We got a couple of recent ones, but what? I mean, they tried to kill Steve Scalise, that got a quarter of the attention, a tenth of the attention that this attack with more questions than answers, or many questions unanswered, I should say. Scalise attacked, there were no questions that weren't answered. They did the best they could to not point out to you that the man was an obsessive, almost to the point of insane follower of Bernie Sanders.
Mayor, which party, what were the political ideology of the individuals going down the street chanting, "Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon"? Who was that?
That was the group that this man who tried to kill or do whatever he did to Pelosi, he has a, according to his neighbor and his ex-wife, he's got a big sign in his, I don't know if he lives in a house or a truck, but in one, he's got a big Black Lives Matter sign, and it's a big Black Lives Matter supporter. So maybe we could say he was incited to violence by constantly hearing the group that he loves so much say, "Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon," which means kill police officers. It sure has been effective, this line, since more police officers, since they were chanting that constantly in 2020 for the riots they pay no attention to. That's the one where people died, unlike January 6th, when nobody died except Ashley Babbitt, who was killed by the police. He might have picked this up by hearing "pigs in a blanket, fry it like bacon." That comes from Black Lives Matter, which is virtually a part of the Democrat Party. How about that picture of all the people like Schumer and Pelosi kneeling down with the Black Lives banner? Well, they all get funded by the same Soros. Who used a prop of President Trump's severed head and celebrated the idea? Kathy Griffin and her liberal friends. Now, if somebody had gone and tried to take President Trump's head off, you think they'd have blamed it on her? Who incited violence and told protesters to stay on the street and get more confrontational? If a former Minneapolis police officer, Derek Chauvin, is acquitted in the killing of George Floyd, stay on the street and get more confrontational? That's not incitement to riot? And they're going after Trump and Trump's people? And they never said anything like that. That was said by George Floyd. In fact, there were some people.
Maxine Waters.
It was about the killing of George Floyd, and it was by Maxine Waters.
Yeah.
And of course, it is by no means the first time that Maxine Waters directly incited killing, violence, stay on the street and get more confrontational. How much more confrontational could they have gotten? They had already killed 26 people. What, did she mean they should kill more people? Get more confrontational than you've already been? You've burned down thousands of buildings. You've done billions of dollars in property damage. You send thousands of people to the hospital and you kill 26 people. Get more confrontational, Maxine? Tell me what more is. More murder? More burning? More serious injuries?
And like you said, Mayor, we've had so much we could have put on here.
We don't.
Brett Kavanaugh.
Well, Brett Kavanaugh is directly incited by Chuck Schumer. He told him to go do it. He said it. I've played that on my podcast. I mean, I'll play it again if I have to. I hate listening to him. I played it on my radio show the other day after he had this ridiculous debate where Joe Pinion kicked the living daylight. I mean, the guy didn't answer a question. And Pinion is a brilliant not that young, but brilliant middle-aged black guy. I mean, he's brilliant. The guy could actually be a senator, not a rubber stamp for the left-wing communists that and the people who attack Israel. What a piece of...
Thanks for joining us. We're live on Facebook.
I had to hold my tongue there.
Giuliani.
But the reality is, can you respect a man that won't stand up for his own people? I mean, these people attack the hell out of Israel. They attack the hell out of the Jewish people. They're in favor of cutting Israel off from all food, water, arms, money, so the Israelis and the Jews will die and disappear. They sit on major Democrat committees. He's one of the biggest big shots in the Democrat Party. He's never said a word. Never gotten him off those committees. They hate his people. I have no idea how he can look at himself in the mirror at night and allow for Tlaib and all those people to have power within his political party. But after all, it is the political party of slavery. It is the political party whose name should be changed if the woke want to change every other name. I mean, they're changing names of people that had no connection to slavery. They just didn't do enough. They take down Theodore Roosevelt's statue, and his whole family fought and died to free black people. But they took it down because there was a black kid and a Native American kid that were next to the whores. But they maintained the name Democrat, even though there is probably no other organization more associated with slavery than the Democrat Party, both in the 19th and then with segregation and lynching, and then the Democrat Party. Its history is horrendous. The Republican Party has nothing like that in its history. Its history is a history of inhumanity, of hatred, of killing, of lynching. Now, who do you think the Ku Klux Klan were? A bunch of Republican bankers? They were all Democrats. Some of them beloved by our president, who accuses the country, all of us, of being racist. Sound like projection?
Thanks for joining us. We'll do some shout outs here. Maureen says hello from Dover, New Hampshire. Dave says hi from Rhode Island. Claudine is checking in from California.
Rhode Island may go Republican. And Rhode Island, you got one of the largest Italian-American populations in America. Italian Americans, I thought they had gotten over the way in which they were marginalized and taken advantage of by the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party has never helped anybody but itself. A party born in slavery, a party that magnified itself based on slavery, a party that continued and enriched itself by being firmly and stubbornly and viciously in favor of racial segregation and continued with lynchings after the Civil War. There's got to be something wrong with the very soul of that party. And I would think that people who, and I'm not big on changing names, so I'm just wonder what hypocrites you are that you don't change the name of the Democrat Party. You want to change the Thomas Jefferson High School, right? The George Washington High School. Why? George Washington was a slave owner. Democratic Party was slave creators. Democratic Party got hundreds of thousands of Americans killed fighting to keep slavery. The Democratic Party is the party of the Ku Klux Klan that lynched people. And my dear friends in Rhode Island, I'd like you to know the second number of people in terms of ethnic group, racial group, that were lynched. People of Rhode Island, please listen. Italians. I bet you didn't know that. Italians are number 2. Choose a number 3. I don't know. Think we might have a little funny feeling when we hear the word Democrat Party, when we find out that they were the ones who were doing the lynching down in the South with the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, when they couldn't find blacks, they went to look for Italians, those greasy ones, those dark ones that spoke a funny language, a language that was a hell of a lot more culture than theirs, boy. The uneducated Italian had a lot more education than the morons who were coming after him with those white things on. Contributed a hell of a lot more to Western civilization. Which is why I'll tell you about one thing about Italians. They never lost their pride. Because they never became what those animals wanted them to be. And those animals were Democrats. They weren't Republicans. Now, you want to fight like this, we can. I don't want to. That's a long time ago, and it's way behind us. So then why are you trying to take Christopher Columbus away from Italian Americans? And not the word Democrat Party away from yourself. You did a lot more current damage than, and you sure didn't do the same good that Christopher Columbus did. And tell me what the hell you did that was so good for the country. And Christopher Columbus put us on the map. That was pretty good.
Thomas also checking in from Rhode Island. We have Bunky in San Francisco. We have Idaho Garden Girl checking in from Southwest Idaho.
So one of you write back to me and tell me if you think that that some group would take up the cause of requiring the Democrat Party to change its name because it was the single biggest supporter and creator of slavery, racial segregation, and lynching.
So, Mayor, are you calling on the Democrat Party to immediately change their name as the Democrat Party name is one with slavery, one and one with slavery?
Tell you what they should do. They should be required to restore the George Washington names, the Jefferson names, the Theodore Roosevelt names. Or, if they want to continue that, I don't think Republicans are in favor of that, they should get rid of their name. Because they're worse than any of those 3 people, by far. Jefferson dreamed of the day and wrote of the day that there would be freedom. Once they got freedom, Democrats started lynching blacks.
And so thanks again for joining us. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Getter, and we will be expanding our reach and audience in the coming days and weeks. So thanks for being a part of this with us. Please comment below with some questions you may have for the mayor. Of course, we're just a few days out from the midterms, and we're answering questions. We have a lot of key races here that we're following, and the mayor is very interested in hearing from you on any questions you may have. So fire away any questions you may have on some of the upcoming midterms, some key races. Mayor, I saw on your chalkboard we're getting people, they really like the whiteboard. They want to see more of the whiteboard.
You want to see my whiteboard?
Do you want to go through some of the key races we've been discussing?
Yeah, I can show you. I can show you my analysis of the House if you want. How we're going to come out on the House. Did I show you people this yet? I did this on my earlier show, and on my podcast. So here's the House of Representatives right now. Okay. That's the House of Representatives. Let me see if I have you see, I don't have all the teacher things because the teachers union won't give them to me because I'm not a communist. So they won't give me, so I'm just I'm not allowed to have a pointer. You have to swear allegiance to Karl Marx to get it. You know, she used to be the head of the union in New York. I used to negotiate with her all the time.
Who's that? Weingartner? Randy Weingartner? You and her are close. So here we have a map of the current. So this is the makeup right now of the House.
220 Democrats, 212 Republicans. Think of the damage they did. This 220 voted uniformly in favor of the inflation that Biden created. Make no mistake about it. The reason why you're paying more for food. The reason why your 401k and your IRA and your savings are worth somewhere between 12 and 14% less than they were when Trump was president is because of Joe Biden and these 220 people and their leader, Nancy Pelosi. So right now, here is the best we can do. Remember, the entire House is up for re-election, so it could go 0, right? But right now, when you look at the races set, meaning these people are ahead by 20 or more points and are virtually assured of being reelected. 153 Dems, 185 Republicans. So you begin with a much better reelection rate for Republicans because of probably we've lived through the worst presidency in the history of our republic, certainly of any living person. Likely, these people are rated in numerous polls. These are accumulation of polls like Real Clear Politics, and then all the major polls. 23 likely Democrats to be elected or reelected with the 153, 17 Republicans. That'll give you 176 Democrats, 202 Republicans when we get finished with the absolutely definitelys and the likelies. Now we go to the people who lean Democrat, Republican. 19 Democrat, 18 Republican. So now you're starting to get down to the hard numbers. 185 Dems, 220 Republicans. That leaves only 5 more. Those 5, they say 3 Repubs, 2 Dems. But let's say they're all Dems. Then it becomes 220, right? It's about 190. That's about right. This could go up. This could go down a little. This could go up a little. So I would say the Republican number that is safe is 220, which would 220 plus 5, 225 would be the safe Republican number. And I would also say, no matter what I say or anybody else, get out and vote because these are all estimates based on polls. Now in the Senate, the Senate gets a little more. The Senate gets a little more complicated. So in the Senate, Arizona and Georgia. Arizona is a toss-up. This is the state with Senator Kelly and with Masters. Masters is tied within 1 point.
So that's shifted. That was some people.
That was a definite Democrat. This, I think, is a legitimate toss-up. I wouldn't call it either way. Georgia, I would say Georgia is a runoff. The polls are close enough that Walker and Warnock are going to have a hard time breaking 50. If anyone does, it'll be Walker. He's probably a point ahead. But they'll go into a runoff, and then I think Walker would win. But you'd have to hold that number in terms of winning the majority off. To win the majority, Republicans have to keep everything they have and take 1 seat away from the Democrats because it's 50-50. They got to get to 51-49. What does that mean? You got to keep what you got, and you got to get 1 more. Okay, so we've got Wisconsin. 4 weeks ago, leaning or Democrat. 2 weeks ago, leaning Republican. A week ago, almost Republican. Now, Johnson is getting close to double digits. This against Mandela Barnes. I would say this. I would rate this as solid Republican. He's won that race. So he's held on. He hasn't given one back. Now, Laxalt, who is a few points behind Johnson, is not leading by 8 or 9, but more like 3 or 4. But the congressional candidates in the key races in Nevada, right below him, are winning by 20 and 25. I have, just so you understand the level of the pick here, Johnson to me is a definite. Laxalt is an almost definite. And Vance, I'd put definite. Definite, very definite, pretty darn definite. Vance, definite. And Oz should be, because people of Pennsylvania, I think, will be embarrassed if they vote for Fetterman. I get embarrassed when the people in New York vote for the Democrats who go out in scandals. 20 years of Democrat governors, 20 years of all of them going out in scandals who were elected. And this one here, Hochul's got 3 big ones already. Oh, and by the way, Hochul and Zeldin. Hochul during the debate said the single dumbest thing I've heard. Oh, I can't say that. I listen to Biden all the time. The single dumbest thing I ever heard from anyone but other than Biden. When Zeldin was spending the debate on crime quite a bit, she got about halfway through, maybe more, got bored and said, I don't know why you think that's so important. Crime. Because people in New York State are getting killed left and right. Because pretend governor, Rochester had more crime last year than ever before in its history. Not New York City, Rochester. You don't give a damn for the people in upstate, downstate, Long Island. You don't give a damn about anything but getting that couple million in your husband's pocket for the stadium. Do you know the stadium she's building? Her husband is one of the executives and one of the owners of the concession company.
That's the Buffalo Bills.
It's only in New York or a Democratic dictatorship where that's not a crime. New Hampshire, the one we're going to be at in a couple of days. General Bolduc. One poll has Hassanis ahead. One poll tied. One poll has Bolduc ahead. And almost to the point of surging. Almost to the point of surging.
So again,
I watched their debate. I watched their debate last night. If you watched that debate, you could be from Mars and you'd vote for Bolduc. She was basically trying to figure out how to support Biden, but not support him. And he was pointing out exactly what he would do to lower taxes, deal with inflation. The guy's a general. She's a rubber stamp.
Again, thanks for joining us. We're going over key Senate races again.
And the other one,
Senate, not governor.
The other ones were ones that the press tried to make Utah. Lisa ahead by 11. Iowa crashes ahead by 12. Florida, Rubio. They're
trying to make that into a race, Mayor.
Yeah. There's going to be some. That'll be some race. And North Carolina is completely over. And please, just 1 point, 2 points of personal privilege to 2 groups of people that I really love: the citizens of New York and citizens of Pennsylvania. Don't make fools out of yourself. The Democrats make fools out of you. Last year, when you all voted for Adams for mayor, I told you not to do it. Now, there's nobody who has more of a right to tell you not to do that than me, because I gave my life to make New York City safe, and I did. I kept my promise. I exceeded my promise. I reduced crime in New York City more than any mayor in the history of New York. I reduced crime in New York City more than any mayor in the history of the country, or governor. Maybe the one thing I really know how to do. They're not just failing to reduce crime. It's much worse than that. They're creating crime, the Democrats are. Their policies are putting the criminals on the street who are killing you, raping you, robbing you, stealing your car, harming your children, destroying our schools. As I said, it's not that they just don't know what to do. They do know what to do. What to do is to serve the criminals. There's a judge, a federal judge in Brooklyn, who's about to allow out of prison 2 people that were put there for life who are mafia multiple murderers. He's a federal judge. He's there for life. I can't influence him. He's an old man. He's been a terrible judge. Appointed by Bill Clinton. Been a terrible judge. He likes criminals. To let mafia killers out? Now, I got a personal reason for this. The guy he's going to let out was a close associate of a mafia criminal I put in jail for 100 years who put out a contract to kill me. So I think I have a right to say that this judge is a disgrace to the judiciary. Letting out mafia killers. He's not doing it for money. He's not corrupt. I'd almost understand that. I mean, a lot of judges in New York do things for money. As other politicians, it's a crooked state. But it's an ideologically sick state. And so is Pennsylvania. Good people of Pennsylvania don't elect Fetterman and Shapiro. My God, they're the reason the people in Philadelphia are getting slaughtered. They're the reason black people in Philadelphia are getting slaughtered. And the same thing is true in New York. Hochul, Cuomo, Adams, de Blasio. They're the reason we have this much crime. You put Hochul there, you're getting people killed. This is a very, very serious election. I know that the economy is the biggest issue for most of you. It probably ultimately, in the long run, is the biggest issue for me too. But I guess because of my background and because life and death is involved, I guess I'd have to say I understand better the horrible, evil thing that the Democrats are doing with regard to crime. To allow Soros to go in and corrupt 40 different cities in their criminal justice system and not stop him is evil. He's evil for doing that. They're evil for not stopping him because they want his money. He's their biggest supporter too, and Black Lives Matter, and Antifa, and Bragg, and Krasner. These are the DAs who are ruining New York and Philadelphia. St. Louis, beautiful St. Louis, is one of the crime capitals of America because of a Soros DA. What's Soros doing electing a DA? What's his interest in wanting to have a lot of crime in St. Louis? You say to yourself, why? Because he's a nihilist. He wants a one world. So the best way to do it, according to communist practice, is destroy us. Get us to hate our heroes, burn their statues, get us to spit on our flag, burn our flag, kneel during our national anthem. You think that was all accident? Of course it wasn't. It comes right out of the communist playbook for brainwashing you. And then it gets followed up by propagandizing our children and getting them to hate America.
And
I think that's going to kill them. I really do. I believe God is looking down on us. And God's not going to let our children be sacrificed the way the Democrats want to sacrifice, because they've already educationally destroyed many of them. They have morally destroyed many of them. And now they're going for out-and-out perversion. Out-and-out perversion. And they think parents are going to stand by and watch it. There's a bill in the legislature of New York, and you're going to have this bill as law if you don't elect Lee Zeldin, that says that the school can decide to help the child change their sex and not tell the parent if the parent's going to be an obstruction. They can even give medicines to the child that will change the sex, and at a certain stage, they can mutilate the child without telling the parent. Who the hell do they think they are? You know what they are? They are either communists or they're people that have been brainwashed by communists. They are executing something that is evil on earth, to destroy children. You got to stop it. There's only one way to do it. We don't do violence in this country. They do. I think we established that at the beginning of the show. We go to the ballot box in large numbers, and we're going to be really careful that you don't cheat this time, or at least you don't cheat enough so that you can beat us. I don't think you can ever stop them from cheating. Second time I ran and won, we spent $1 million to stop them from cheating. And I asked the two people who did it for me, who are now extremely well-regarded individuals, did we stop them completely? And he said, no, the Democrats stole about 30,000, but we beat the hell out of them this time. First time they stole 50. That's in my election. So when I talk to you about stolen elections, not only do I have thousands of facts to back me up, just virtually 1,000 feet from here, I lived through it.
Thanks again for joining us. We just have a couple of minutes left. The fastest hour on the internet is right here on Live with Mayor Rudy Giuliani. So comment below if you haven't yet on your name and where you're tuning in from. The mayor loves to read through those, check those out, even if we don't have time to get through all of them on the air. Also, visit rudygiulianics.com. That's rudygiulianics.com to listen to the mayor's podcast. And Mayor, what does the CS stand for?
The CS stands for common sense, and you're going to love the one this week because it wasn't staged. It just sort of happened, and you're going to get to see the best people in New York, the people of Staten Island. You'll feel if you're going to watch this in Ohio or Kansas or Alabama
Denver,
or
Colorado.
Denver, you're going to think you're at home. You're going to say, "This is New York City. These people are normal."
And that's again the mayor. Staten Island went big for Mayor Rudy Giuliani in 1993.
I think 85%. You like places like that, right? And we hug. And I'm going to tell you one other thing about Staten Island that's serious, that makes me love them forever, eternally. They lost the most people on September 11. They lost the most firefighters, the most police officers, and the most workers. And they love their country. Nobody's afraid to put the flag up in Staten Island. Nobody burns flags in Staten Island. You don't kneel during the national anthem in Staten Island. And it gives you goosebumps when you go to the 4th of July parade there, like it gives you goosebumps in your town. There's still the majority of us love this country. We don't mistake nationalism with fascism. They do. They're the fascists. We're the patriots. They're the people who project. They're the crooks. Every single thing I've told you has turned out to be true. Every single thing they've accused me of, being a Russian agent, the whole Russian collusion thing, the hard drive. Who got the hard drive and told you it was Biden's? Me. Who said I was lying? The ones who were going ahead with January 6th. How often do you get people, or how often do people allow other people to lie to them and make fools out of them? Well, the media will do it forever because it's corrupt. But I'm talking to decent Americans now. When are you going to realize that the Democratic Party has rotted from the top, and the media? You can't do much about the media except don't buy them and go to somebody else. But you can vote them out of office. Let them fix themselves. Get rid of them all. Let them start a new party, a clean one, a good one. And maybe they should think about, as I said, change the name. Maybe there's something in the history of a party that has supported evil as much as they have. I can't think of a political party that for such a long time supported such evil the way they did.
Thanks again. We are wrapping up in our final minute. You'll want to tune in again tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And then next week, we have an exciting week of shows for you. We'll be hitting the road, some surprise locations, and of course, it's election week. So you'll want to stick right here with Mayor Giuliani all next week, 8 p.m. Plus, we'll probably have some additional coverage for election night. Mayor, final thoughts.
My final thoughts are keep yourself focused on the election. The day after, we don't want people saying, what can we do to fix this? Now is the time to fix it, and fix it for good, and save our country the way loyal, peaceful, God-loving Republicans do at the ballot box. Leave the violence to them. They're professionals at it. I mean, they've been doing it for years. And boy, they are professionals at being crooks. Wow. You can't imagine the amount of money the Biden family stole. Someday I'll take you into that room. I'll show you all the affidavits. I'll show you the tapes. I'll show you the videos, the texts. I'll show you the money laundering transaction that I can prove to you in 3 minutes. With just a couple pieces of paper, you'll see the $3+ million that got laundered to the Bidens. We could see the 10 million that went from China, from communist China to Joe Biden. 50% from the top, according to Hunter, and 10% more, according to the contract, and several witnesses.
And with that, we are wrapping up. I apologize. We had some really good questions. The mayor will answer tomorrow.
Come back tomorrow, and pretty soon we're going to get ourselves geared up
for phone calls.
If you want, you let us know if you'd like us to be geared up for phone calls. We'll be back tomorrow night. Think about that a little and let us know. We've been building and building and building because we want to build a solid base so that we can really get around their censorship as we get ready for 2024. Because this is the inside the 2022 election show, right? Starting next Wednesday, it'll be inside the 2024 election because it's going to start the day after. You know that.
So stick with us going into election 2022. And then the day after, this will be...
2024 is coming up. It's a week away.
And so with that, again, you want to hear the mayor's thoughts on the election results in Brazil, for example, or Mr. Netanyahu's big victory in Israel? Those are two questions.
Two friends of mine. Mr. Bolsonaro, when I met him, cried and told me he loved me because of what I did on September 11 for my country. Isn't that nice? And Bibi and I have been friends since we were in our 30s. And he's a close friend and a man nobody else could have done for Israel what he did, turn it from a socialist country into pound for pound, one of the richest countries in the world, and one of the bravest.
So stay tuned. The mayor will have plenty more to say on Israel, Brazil, and of course the election's coming up right here. With that, we want to wish you a good night, Mayor.
Good night, everyone. Tomorrow morning when you get up, kneel down and say, thank you, God, for allowing me to be in America. God bless America.
Good night.